I'm Sean O'Brien. I'm originally from Hull in Yorkshire, and I study physics, specifically astrophysics, and the sort of general title would be that I look for planets around other stars, known as exoplanets. So I was doing a master's at Warwick using the same telescopes that I use now in my PhD. So it was through that master's and through my supervisor there that I learned about the PhDs on offer here at Queen's, and in particular the PhD that I'm now doing, which as soon as I read the description of it, I was immediately excited by it and knew that that's something I wanted to work on. I mean, I was always sort of interested in physics, interested in astrophysics in school, and sort of learned a bit about exoplanets there. But it was really during my undergrad where I was actually doing a maths degree, but I found that there were so many astrophysics modules I could choose anyway, and sort of reignited my passion. And in particular was one that was just called Planets, Exoplanets and Life. And I thought, well, that's the coolest name for a module ever. So I started studying that and immediately sort of fell in love with the field. And that's what brought me to wanting to just, study exoplanets and learn about them full time, and therefore into the PhD. Yeah, well, being from Yorkshire, obviously from the name, I do have ties here. It's quite an Irish name. My dad's born in Northern Ireland, and my granddad as well. So I already had sort of some ties to Northern Ireland. But the main thing for me was the PhD project. I think, when you're at sort of the PhD level, it's more about the project rather than maybe like the university or like the city around it. But I love Belfast and I love Queen's. They're just sort of added bonuses, but it was really the project that was the main draw for me. There's lots of different things that I really enjoy. Working with real astrophysical data is a cool thing. Getting to travel to different places around the world for conferences or observing. So I've been to Chicago last year and also La Palma in the Canary Islands. So that's quite a nice perk. But I think one of my favorite things is when you kind of find something weird in your data or your analysis, and you just end up going like down the rabbit hole of what's causing this. And it's sort of that knowledge also that quite often you're one of the first people to come across these anomalies, or you're part of a very small select few of people that are trying to look at that data. So it's really cool to be kind of at that forefront of like, what could this be? What could be the reason for this weird thing that we found? So that's one of my sort of favorite things of the PhD. So I did my master's at Warwick, and that was a 12-month research master's, which is sort of like a PhD year zero in that you're doing purely research, but the main difference is that you're under a lot more of a time constraint. You've got 12 months to do the master's, so your project is more defined. Whereas in the PhD, if you find something weird, you can sort of chase after it for a bit and be like, go out exploring, as it were. So that's sort of the biggest difference that I find with the masters between the masters and PhD, having done a research one. And I know from people that have done sort of more of a taught masters or integrated masters, they find that there's even more freedom in a PhD compared to those. So yeah, that's sort of the biggest difference, is the freedom within your research to explore different things. Typical day would be a lot of coding, so writing software that will analyze any data or trying to plot that data in graphs, so that you can get a better idea of what's going on. And then also a lot of writing, which is maybe one of the things that you kind of forget about going through A levels or university when you're doing physics and maths and stuff like that, is you still need to be able to write. So there is quite a lot of writing involved, writing papers, writing reports, and then also a lot of editing involved with that as well. So I'd say typically it's a mix of coding, writing and editing, and then also going to meetings and sort of keeping up with reading papers as well, if there's sort of new work published, and trying to keep up with the field. That's sort of the typical day. So I definitely recommend it. It's difficult, there's hard times, but when you get really stuck into something, that motivation is always there. And at the end of the day, you're working on, in my case, sort of real data from space. So if someone asks you, what do you do? And you go, well, I find planets around other stars. That's pretty cool. And sort of my other sort of advice or tip is, you don't have to be sort of like conventionally good at physics in the sense that you're good at exams or good in school, or like were good in school, because you can always come to it later in life. Research is a totally different beast. Being good at exams doesn't necessarily correlate with being good at research. So you just give it a go and you find out, do you like it? Are you good at it? And yeah, that's the main thing, is that it's not the sort of, we're not all super A-star clever people. It can be just regular people. We're all just normal.